Good evening and welcome to the Eve Prosper Market Show. I'm your host, Lockefox, and we're going to start the show like we usually do, just talking about some of the background information about the show. If you want to follow the show, all you have to remember is Eve Prosper. That will get you to Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and the blog. If you guys hadn't noticed, we have been posting this last week a bunch of price alerts and news through the Twitter feed. And so you really should go follow us there. I might do a drawing for 500. I haven't figured that out yet. Next, if you want to support the show more directly, feel free to stop by our Patreon at patreon.com/EveProsper. We really appreciate the support of our community. It really helps keep the lights on here. It helps pay for licenses and keeps things moving behind the scenes. A little bit goes a long way, and I want to thank all of the patrons there. That you guys really mean a lot. Also, if you ever want to catch the show live, we broadcast at 0200 on Fridays. That's Thursday night U.S. time. And then we get live onto YouTube a few hours after that for all of my European watchers. And last but not least, I want to go ahead and give another shout out to the New Eden Update. They were so kind as to send one our way. I'm a big fan of the show. They do very brief news review 5 days a week. It's a great little bite-sized podcast. I really like what they're doing over there, so show them their support and tell them I sent you. With that, let's go ahead and move on to the news. First, there was the Citadel blog dump, again, from, I believe, CCP Nullarbor. And I didn't get a chance to read through this whole thing. I have been swamped at work, so the big piece to keep in mind here, the TLDR, is that they want to bring back structure grinding in some sort or another when it comes to these citadels. I understand the issue that it was discussed in a lot of the CSM minutes that the Entosis fighting is not satisfying, that it's way too fast. Defenders don't have a really good chance to bring up a defending fleet. New space is really hard to to put your heels into. And the design here is that there will be some amount of structure grinding. They've been really coy about how that structure grinding is going to work. I'm hesitant about this. I'm sure there'll be more news. The CSM seems pretty happy with it. But we'll see. I won't jump too far on either side of the bandwagon yet. Also, the CSM minutes for this week's summit are out. Days 1, 2, and 3, I believe, are out. I only got a chance to read through day 1, and I should have put a picture of CCP Kitty up on the thing, but I didn't pull down an image. So, last, before we go on to the Plex, there was the 07 show today, and they had a lot of great news. They talked to some of the CSM. We're getting away from the 6-week release. Well, still going to have a 6-week release schedule, but moving to more of an expansion style, so that we can glob things like the sovereignty changes into one, as opposed to having like 3 iterations come out. And we can glob the structures into one big release and not just have a trickle of pieces, and you have to sit for 2 or 3 months while the whole picture fleshes out. CCP Siegel had a video up right after the 07 show. You guys should go watch it. It's really short, really brief. It's just sort of a really quick, hey guys, we hear your complaints. We are changing direction as we see appropriate. But the thing I wanted to bring up is they had CCP Quant on the show, and he's going to be publishing. They're not going to be publishing the QENs per se, because they don't really have anyone to drive that the way that EO did. But they're going to be publishing at least infographics, and I know that Fuzzy Steve had been asking, and I know a lot of people want it, I want it, for these feeds to be out in straight numbers. We should be seeing reports on a regular basis from CCP that would let you build a QEN if you were so inclined. So here we see the ISK sinks and faucets for the month of June. He scrolled it down. There's no way I could do that on the slide. Also, imports and exports by regions, so we can see where all the materials are going. I'm actually really interested in this one. I'm going to see if we can get a published feed for this. If I can get it the numbers, I would really like to use these numbers to help drive some of the cross market stuff that we have on the to-do list. And then the most interesting one was the velocity of money, which I wasn't familiar with the term beforehand, but it's a way of saying how much money exists and how much of it is being spent over a given time. And again, I'm really interested to see all this. I really want to see a numbers feed, even if it's just a monthly Crest endpoint. I don't care. Actually, you know what? I should go bug him and he should put it on Quandle. That would be freaking awesome. So that's that. Really excited for that. It was only like 5 minutes, but I expect to see a lot more of this at Eve Vegas because he's giving a big talk there. I'm really looking forward to it. With that, let's get to the real show. Let's talk about Plex, because holy crap, Plex is on a tear. What is there to say about Plex? So last week I mentioned that this cresting up to 1.2 looked unstable but hadn't triggered any flags. This continued run up to 1.25, up to 1.3 has triggered our 2 sigma flags. So that's like saying that the amount of, and this is, I should change the calculation to be percentage difference rather than straight difference, that this gap is wider than 98% of the days in our record, which is about the point where we saw corrective action in November last year. This particular spike was a 2.5 sigma. It was a unprecedented spike. It was as high and as hot as ever in history. And we're getting on that territory right now. So I want to go give you guys a quarterly prediction about Plex. I'm working on getting the pieces together. I have the most of the hard work code figured out. It's just a matter of getting it all into a pretty report at the moment. I want to give you guys a what I think is a sane Plex price for the next 3 months. I hope to have that done this weekend, and I'll have a blog post out. With that being said, my advice for Plex right now is get the hell out. 1.3 billion is a great price to sell if you've been holding. To be completely honest, we might get all the way to 1.35 or almost 1.4, but to go above 1.4 in the next 2 weeks would put us so far into unstable territory that we would, if there wasn't ECB action, I would be shocked. These particular, we saw the spike bubble out a few weeks ago, and we're back on another spike, and this difference between the actual price and the 10-day moving average is just insane. Now, let me color that with the counterpoint that makes that prediction wrong. The counterpoint is that if the news that comes out at Eve Vegas is good for capitals, we expect to see a lot of inactive accounts get resubbed. and that would drive another bubble. My view on it, personally, and this is probably going to be proven wrong, is that I would sell at 1.3. I think that we'll fall right back down to 1.1 in the next 10 to 15 days. If you wanted to bet on capitals, I would buy under 1.1 billion and then ride that out. Right now, where we are is extremely unstable. I have a real hard time agreeing with a price over 1.15 at the moment, and we're pretty considerably over that. So that's my 2 cents. I would sell. I wouldn't even think twice about it. I'd count my money, and I'd wait for this action to bubble, to pop, because we saw it a couple weeks ago. We're probably going to see it seesaw again back under 1.1. And then if we look at the RMT tokens, things are looking reasonably healthy. The margins are thinning on the multiple pilot training certificates, and they're not quite keeping up with the price of Plex at the moment. I have a hard time using this as a predictor, but we have seen it overshoot when Plex pops. So if you really wanted to get speculating, this might actually be a decent pattern to jump in on, where you buy a multiple pilot training certificate now. You buy hopefully a buy order, and you wait for this bubble to pop, probably over the weekend, maybe on Monday, and you put your training certificate up on the market right after that. Not a bad plan. The volumes aren't great, so I can't tell you to wash a ton of money this way, but it would be not a terrible plan. And last, just to look at the buy and sell spreads, the spread between buy and sells has stayed really healthy. We're seeing the same delta stay intact as we go up. We're really seeing the sells drive the price of things. So again, this is extremely unstable territory. I would get out while the getting's good, but I'm also a coward, so that's the way I'd play it. Moving on to minerals. Minerals are a little interesting this week. We saw a blip in titanium taking us up to almost 5.8. I didn't put this graph in the show because it doesn't really go with the flow very well, but this high price looks to have popped. So I was going to give a bunch of advice about, you should stock up and you should watch the T1 markets, but I don't think this blip is real. I think we're going to come back down. Next, we look at pyrite. We were seeing a slight decline, but we're back at a pretty stable 11.4. Again, nothing much to say here. I kind of would expect this to be on the rise with a positive capital outlook, but I don't think there's a ton of money to be made speculating in pyrite. I think that things might rise up to 11.5 or 11.6, but I have a hard time telling you that it's going to get above 12 or up to 12.5 to really make that a really brilliant investment. Next, Mexilon, and I really want to talk about Mexilon again, is my next big one. I put out a price alert about this before the 07 show, and I really want to reiterate this for everyone who's watching live. I think a buy price of Mexilon under 55 is a great buy, and I am putting a target out there for 65 by Eve Vegas. I think this is a great chance to get in, especially if you want to look like a super genius. The justification is multifold. So, one, the Citadel pricing blog should be out soon-ish. Got rumors from Diana Olympos that it's basically put together. We should expect that in the coming weeks. I would expect it to hit before Eve Vegas. We're expecting the news about capitals to come out, and the CSM is positive about those outcomes from Scion down to Jane. The the outlook on capitals looks good. And because of those two factors, I am putting Mexilon at the top of my list of things to buy right the hell now. Like, pause the show, go log in, go buy some Mexilon. We saw one bump from about 42 to 50 a few weeks ago because of the Citadel blog. And I expect to see at least 65 by the end of October with the capital information. Now, the reason I make that prediction is that Mexilon is kind of the bottleneck when it comes to heavy manufacturing. It's hard to source enough of it when you're a capital producer. If the build picture comes out for Citadels that requires a lot of Tech 1, Mexilon tends to be the choke point. I really, 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 really endorse Mexilon. So, and if I'm wrong, please send all your angry emails to Lockefox in-game, and you can go ahead and war deck Aderon Robotics and come get me, because, yeah, I really do believe in this one. Moving on, now that if I may get off my soapbox, let's move on to Isogen. Isogen hasn't really been moving a lot. We're at about 120 as of this broadcast. I think we'll continue to see that weak upward trend with the weekend peaks and the weekday valleys. Not really seeing a bunch to talk about here. Noxium, again, it looks volatile on the graphs, but it's not really moving that much. We're looking at about a 515 price today. We're seeing it move between 480 and 520. There might be some action to play out, but I think that this one's going to stay relatively stable. And if it doesn't stay stable, I think it's going to trend down because of nullsec mining. Zydrene continues to fall. We're seeing it do the recovery pattern again, like we saw a few weeks ago, sitting right now at about 1150. I expect this to fall a little bit further, but I have a hard time predicting it falling below a floor of 1000. And Megasite has stabilized at about 1300. Has stabilized at about 1500, and I have a hard time predicting that it's going to fall out of this band. But we've seen some high volume spikes that might drive it one way or the other. It's kind of in an unstable space to really make a good prediction. And then my favorite darling, Morphite, was at 13,000 all week. Has been falling down to 12,500. It's on its way to 12,000. I think the price of Morphite is a bit high at the moment. I have a really hard time swallowing a price over 11K. But prices are... I don't think there's enough Tech 2 production to really absorb it all, but that's just me and my gut. I don't really have any numbers to back it up. And then to end, looking at the buy and sell margins on minerals, things are looking relatively stable. We saw a spike in Isogen that was not backed up by buy orders, so the prices are back to stable. We're seeing things stay really stable in Megasite, and the margin in Noxium has me a little bit worried that we'll see some downward pressure. Same with Zydrene. So... And then last picture I have in here, I should have put it in a different order, is Mexilon. This is just a zoomed in view. We're not seeing anything in particular. This was taken right before the show. That's signaling up or down. We're seeing a pretty wide margin here that might be signaling a little bit of down motion. I still think that any price under 55 is a buy, and a price target of 65, I think, is completely reasonable. And then the last piece I want to bring up is that I saw some flags in the raw ore markets come up. We're seeing some instability in plagioclase, which is a prime sample for both trit and pyrite. And I'm not sure why I didn't see anything in the compressed markets. As I was saying, the plagioclase is a great place to get trit and pyrite. It's a great compressible when it comes to doing your capital production. The compressed products didn't flag, but I might have them filtered out, so I have to double check our tools. Just a pretty interesting spread there. All right, moving on to fuel. Fuel isotopes look the same as they did last week, and I do have to update this picture. It is not pulling the right way. We're seeing a pretty high spike in Caldari. Caldari keeps climbing. It's above 900 at the moment. I think this is a particularly particularly worrying direction. It might just be that people are actually using it. It's just that we're seeing a price differential of 200 ISK per unit in mining, which means that I would expect miners to destroy that margin. The ISK per hour on that is actually pretty respectable at the moment. But we're also seeing every other isotope at basically the same price, which is something we haven't seen in a while. So we might see some breakout going on here. Fuel blocks. Fuel blocks are a little interesting. We're seeing a run on Minmatar fuel blocks, so if you can sell any, I would get out there and make your money. This is probably already passed before the show started. I can't pull Crest data until 7 o'clock my time, and we go live at 8. So I don't have the time to pull the new data right before the show, unfortunately. And the every other price seems to be in line. Amar's a little bit high, Galente's a little bit low. This Minmatar fuel block thing is probably not real. Moving on to outliers, let's start where we usually do with advanced materials. Not a ton to say here. Things are looking relatively stable. We're seeing a blip in nanotransistors, and we'll take a closer look at that in a minute. We're also we saw a blip in phenolic composites, but that looks like it should be losing steam and being back to normal real soon here. If you were in on this particular thing, I hope you were sold out by now. And then the last one that got my eye is the gulf on silaramic fibers is a little bit worrying. The prices had been climbing for several months, and then Galatea hit, and now we're eking back down, which it's a low tier product. So I expect a little more volatility in it, but that's what we're seeing here. Again, we look at nanotransistors. The spike isn't completely out of the norm. We were at kind of a low price, and it looks like just a regular reset where people said, "Oh, that's a great price," and reset it. 2200 looks like a pretty respectable price. I don't see why we'd go either way. We'll probably lose some ground with settling in the 2150 range. Another interesting one. This didn't break out far enough for me to tell you to cash out your faction warfare loyalty points, but mechanical engineering data cores tend to be extremely stable. We've seen them under the 55K mark for ever and ever. They recently did a breakout up above 60K, which is not a great amount of money to make on data cores, and I don't think it's really going to be reflected in Tech 2 hull prices. But it means that if you are a producer, this might be a chance to go use some backstock or supply yourself with buy orders, because right now the prices seem way too high. I have a hard time seeing this really stay above 55K at the moment. Moving on, we looked at this last week, and I wanted to look at it again this week, is Tech 3 cruisers. We keep seeing the climb in the Proteus, which is interesting. I'm a big fan of the Proteus. I think it's kind of an underrated T3. Prices are stable at the moment at about 160 mil, but not sure exactly which way we'll go. It looks like we'll spike up a little bit further, but it's a little hard to tell with just this picture. The Tengu I had mentioned last week was a great buy, and it looks like somebody listened because the price went a little bit crazy, capping out almost to 200 mil. And we're coming back down off of that. So if you bought a Tengu, this would be a great chance to sell. I think north of 160 mil is a really good price to go get them. And we might actually see it dip right down below 150 again. And if it goes below 150, I'd put it at a buy rating again. It's hard to say that you'll get this kind of performance again. I think this is a little bit rare, but I thought the behavior was interesting. Next, the other big news of the week was battle cruiser rebalance. And there was a lot of hubbub when the dev blog hit, but I'm not seeing a lot of it now on the market after the thing. Now, we'll look at the Navy battle cruisers in a second, but it looks like they added new bonuses to the ships to make them a little more unique, stand out a little bit more, and not just be crappy battleships or really good cruisers. They have some, they added more reach to things like the Hurricane, and they added more drone capacity to, I want to say, the Brutix and the Harbinger. I'd have to go double look at the post again. I'm really bad at guessing exactly where things are going to land when Fozzie does a rebalance pass. I'm rather happy with where the Hurricane is going and the Prophecy, because those are two ships that are close to my heart. Harbinger looks like it's climbing up, but again, we're in a bit of an unstable territory. If we look at the Navy battle cruisers, though, we see that the Brutix Navy issue is extremely popular, and if you were watching on Reddit, the Hurricane Fleet issue sold out during the speculation period. So I think the Navy battle cruisers are going to be the place to speculate. Unfortunately, you're a little late to the party to do so. The best way, I think, to do this would be to go cash out some loyalty points to ride it through there, but I don't think you can use faction warfare loyalty points to get these. If I remember correctly, I think they're the only ship you can't get through faction warfare. I like the Brutix. The Brutix is great. I like the Hurricane. I like the Harbinger. The Drake is the Drake. I don't have to love the Drake for the Drake to be awesome. I still think that the missile ships are going to have their day in the sun here in Q4, but market's not really backing me up on that, so my gut may have been wrong there. Moving on, another one we brought up for the last couple of weeks has been the Zephyr. We saw it spike during Galatea, and it has eked back down again. The idea was that with the drifter incursions, people thought you were going to be immune to drifters and you could go investigate the sites. But drifters shoot Zephyrs, so when they roll back in the drifter incursions, which I still haven't seen any news about, there is a mass test this week, I believe. When they roll back in the drifter incursions, I would expect Zephyrs to pop again. So this is not a bad place to do a little bit of light speculation into, but again, the volumes on this are so low, it's really hard to say that you'd be able to sell more than maybe 20 in a week on a single seller, so be really careful on this one. Moving on, the Guardian was interesting, and I brought this up. I didn't bring it up last week. I really should have. What it looks like is that since the Amarr succession trials are going to be a Amarr only tournament, a lot of the gold hulls have been spiking up and down. So if you want to get into speculating, if you really want to try your hand at it, the place to be looking for opportunities, I think, is in the gold fleet. It was also announced during the 07 show that the gold and silver magnates are coming back with a balance pass. I didn't have a chance to read Fozzie's notes on what the actual new balance passes are, but the succession trials look really interesting, and I wish I had time to go put together a team. I wish all the luck in the world to the team from Pi, to be completely honest, because they're gonna be the team to beat. it's interesting. It looks like most of the action is done here, but we might see it. We might see it rebound if it goes under 140 mil. Next, the Sacrilege was another interesting one. We saw it spike. It's coming down off of that spike. I would be watching for the bounce here. If we get down to 140, be a great chance to buy in to try and catch the bounce. I would think that producers are going to oversupply this, and it'd be a great chance to get some stuff at bargain basement prices when it comes to the materials and wait for producers to get constrained. Moving on, the Caracal was in the dumps last week and has popped back up. Now, the difference between dumps and up is about 1 million, but the prices have been in pretty strong flux. I think that this particular pop has to do with the price of Trit over the last week, so I expect it to come back down again. I don't think it's a good chance to buy Caracals, but if you can sell some, this would be the chance to do it, like during this show or on Friday or maybe Saturday. Another interesting one that's been on a rise for the last month or so has been the Cinnabol. Looks like it topped out at a 180 mil. I sure hope that's 180. I can't read the decimal points on my own graphs. The looks like we popped that bubble again. The volumes haven't really changed. We've seen a slight decrease in volumes, but the prices are pretty low. This is a great chance to buy in if you needed a Cinnabol. I don't know if the prices are really going to go up from here. The chart says probably, but it's a little hard to predict in the position it's at. This one was, I argued with myself all day on whether to include this or not. We're looking at the Nighthawk, just over 300 mil. It looks like we may have seen a decent sell-off recently. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't seen any news to the Nighthawk specifically. It's probably just a production saturation. This would be a great chance to buy a Nighthawk. If you need a boosty alt and you need a Nighthawk, this would be a great chance to get one. I'd expect the prices to go up. I'd be putting a target of 320 mil. Not exactly sure what's driving it and not exactly sure how long it will take you to get there because, again, the volumes are like 10 a day, so this is pretty thin on the ground. But if you're lucky, we should see another constriction where producers don't keep up with production. Moving on, the broadsword. If you need a broadsword, I would wait 4 days. I give this 4 days before it pops. The prices are just a little out of normal, and that means that there's going to be some producer who does something stupid, builds like 40 of them, and doesn't realize that only 10 a day sell. So this one's going to dip below 200, in my opinion. It'd be a great chance to buy to buy in sub 200. I'm kind of a fan of the broadsword. It's the 1 Hector I've flown that didn't feel like I was piloting a retarded brick. I like the broadsword. All of the Hectors fly like retarded bricks, but the broadsword is the least retarded. Moving on, the Gecko. We brought this up last week, and I figured we'd talk about it one more time. Prices keep falling. We're sub 100 million at the moment, and I still got to give this a buy rating. Especially sub 100 mil. We have more room to fall. We could fall all the way to 80. That's completely possible. It's completely plausible, especially with drone metas not being extremely popular. We could see a price fall all the way to 80, so buying in at 100 is still kind of a bad call. But it's a falling knife, and I don't know how to catch falling knives, so I would buy in if you wanted to invest in something for the very long term, or if you were looking to actually use the geckos in your carrier, for instance. This would be a great chance to get some. And then I believe this is the last chart of the night, is the Xenu Bean Counter Metallurgy MY-703. This should be a ME plus 3% implant that I'm a big fan of as a producer. I believe I have the 4% ones on all my producers. Volumes are extremely low, but it is so unstable at the moment. This would be a great chance to ride around if you have the stomach for it. But I just thought it was interesting that it looks like somebody picked up a bunch of these and screwed up the market. So last section, we go into the prediction review. We check out what I said last week and see if I'm any good at this. I'm usually 50-50. I mentioned last week we're looking at the Ishtar, that the blip up last week was the best chance you're going to see for a very long time to sell Ishtars. So if you had Ishtars and you wanted to get out of the market, I hope you sold last weekend, because the price is falling, and it's falling slower than I expected. We're normalizing at about 170 mil. But I still think that the 160 point is really where we need to be, and maybe even down to 150. But volumes are still staying relatively healthy, north of 100 a day. They're still a popular PvE ship. They still have their use in PvP, just not in every PvP fleet. So if you still haven't sold, you gotta sell. Just please sell. And if you don't sell, it's not my fault. A next one, I should have brought this up last week. It should have triggered the flags. I have to look into why. The Naga was up big time over the last week. Looks like somebody was buying up for some sort of event. That might have actually been the invasion during right after Galatea. Prices have been normalizing again. They're an armor ship. T3BCs kind of go both ways. The prices are falling slowly. Looks like we're back at a normal price again. It has the opportunity to fall a little bit low. So if I saw a price under 65 mil, I would buy them up. They're a popular ship. I'm a big fan of them. Nothing like having a giant blaster platform. Don't know when you get a chance to sell them, but I think the prices will come up eventually. The Abaddon I brought up last week. This is where I actually had the aha moment on the air that this was getting used for the succession trials. Looks like the prices crested and volume kind of thinned out, and the prices are trending a little bit lower. Indicators say we should be going back up again, but that's a really weak signal, and I don't know if I can tell you guys to jump on for this one. Prices could probably stay flat given the way that minerals are going, but this is a good opportunity if you wanted to try your hand at speculating for the Succession Trials tournament. The Abaddon might be a decent place to cut your teeth with relatively low risk. And then last week I brought up customs office gantries that were spiked up high. Looked like a part of the Imperium's invasion was destroying every single POCO, and those had to be replaced. The thing I told everyone to do was take your loyalty points and cash them out and sell the gantries, but looks like that action's over. We're back down at the 70 mil mark, and no reason to say we're going to get out of that track anytime soon. So party's over. Get out of the market. All right, that makes a show. So I want to thank everyone who tuned in live, especially given the technical difficulties. I really do appreciate everybody who was watching. If you want to tune into the show, all you have to remember is Eve Prosper. That will get you to Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and the blog. If you want to support the show directly, we have a Patreon at patreon.com/Eve Prosper. Every little bit counts, and we really do appreciate it. I want to thank again the shout out from New Eden Update. We have Dirk McGurk in the channel tonight. Thanks again for the shout out. If you guys like the Eve News part, they do it 5 days a week. I love the show. It's short, it's sweet, and it gives you the links to the things you might want to know more about. Go ahead and tune in there. That's newedenupdate.com, I believe. You can tune in live on Fridays at 0200. That's Thursday night U.S. time on both Twitch and YouTube, broadcasting on both. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I've been your host, Lockefox, and we'll see you next week on the Eve Prosper Market Show.